So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from today. I look forward to bringing you another set of six where today we talk to the people from Australia. We've got the CEO, Mr. Jamie O'Connor, and Women's Opens representative, prolific try scorer for the Ladies Opens Emu, Samantha Rodgers. G'day, guys.
Hey, guys.
How are we?
Hi, Ads. I'm good, mate. Yeah, what about you? How are you travelling?
Yeah, travelling really well. Thanks, mate. Thanks for joining us. And also to you, Samantha. It's great to have you guys on board. The set of six has been fairly popular. We've travelled around the world, 7 different countries, and now here we are with the world champions, Australia. So plenty of people out there will be waiting to hear what you guys have to say. And, basically just give us a little bit of a background on how you became to get involved in the sport. Sammy, we'll start with you, ladies first. What is it about touch football that got you interested? And, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I guess I started playing touch footy. I was in primary school and my PE teacher kind of said, hey, I think you should just go and, trial for this team. And I was like, sure, why not? I didn't even know rules. I just turned up and started playing. And next thing I was playing in like the New South Wales McKillop team. And I think mum and dad at that point were like, oh, okay, this could be your sport. So they signed me up with Right Eastwood Hawks, and that's where I started my touch football career. And yeah, here we are today, 10 years or 12 years later. So yeah.
Geez, 12 years sounds like such a long time, but you're only young. You're only a baby. Amazing. Yes. You've had a great career, taking you plenty of places around the world and some great friendships. Is that one of the main things you love about the sport?
Yeah, I think that the friendships that you make and the memories that you make playing touch is the most special part, I guess. So yeah, I'm very grateful and very fortunate to be involved in such an awesome sport. Yeah.
Fantastic. And we'll bring Jamie back in. Jamie, what's the Jamie O'Connor story, mate? You're at the head of the tree as far as the organisation goes, but you had to have started somewhere, mate. What's your background?
It's nowhere near as illustrious as Sammy's. I know ladies first, I understand that, but I wish you had started with me because my story is nowhere near as entertaining as, Sammy's, and certainly the career that she's had and one of the darlings of our sport. And but no, mine's nowhere near as entertaining as that. Look, started off, I come from a rugby league background, and my dad played social touch, and I was always, through summer, I was always down at the local touch fields here in Port Stephens, and all the way through rugby league, I'd always played touch socially through summer, and that's pretty much how I got involved from from a career perspective. The fork in the road, or the real marquee moment for me actually was State Cup. I was fortunate enough to be up there one of the years when Benji was at his prime playing with Wests, and watching the flood of people flock to watch him. Gave me some real insight and some great understanding that that we need to be able to shine a spotlight on the sport. And it took me another 8 or 10 years before I got an opportunity to jump across from rugby league and into touch. But that was a real critical time for me. I always felt there was untapped potential, particularly from a broadcast point of view. And we've been thankful for being able to put premierships together and the like over the last couple of years, which no doubt we'll chat about. But that was probably a real critical time for me, watching Benji run around and just see the flock of people to go and watch someone so talented, and just the opportunity, I guess, to be able to play a little bit of a part in shining a light on what incredible athletes we've got.
Yeah, fair enough. And as you said, critical times got you involved, and we're all involved in a bit of a critical time at the moment. The COVID-19 pandemic has obviously affected the game across the world, it affected communities across the world, and we're not immune to that here. Give us a little bit of or just touch on how it's affected the community in general, but also, more importantly, the touch footballing fraternity. Where are we at as far as the COVID-19 situation goes?
Look, it's so hard, Adam. We sit here in Australia, and no doubt Joe Springer's across in Touch New Zealand, and probably a little bit embarrassed about how lucky we've been. We've really dodged a bullet when it comes to the pandemic so far. Anyway, touch wood, that remains to be the case. But we got our NTLs away, our big national titles away at the back end of middle of March, and then we went pretty much on the Monday. We went into some fairly serious lockdowns, and it progressively got worse. And we're sort of starting to see that come out through the other side of that now. But we're in our quiet period. If there's ever a quiet period in touch in Australia, it's on mass community level. Anyhow, it's now. So we've taken some really significant hits, but nowhere near as bad as what it could have been if this started in October or November and played itself out over a 6-month period over summer. It would have been diabolical for our sport in Australia. So far we've been okay. It's not without its challenges, but I'm sort of really comfortable right now with where we're at. Like I said, it's not without its challenges. It's been tremendously difficult navigating our way through that, but I think that we got a touch of luck along the way as well.
Fair enough. And as a participation sport, it's affected quite a widespread community, and just recently we've been given the okay to return to sport, and checking the social media channels, you can see how happy everybody is about that.
Yeah, look, you're right. We play across 320 different locations across Australia. Broome released an article, the local paper in Broome, which is, the top end of halfway up Western Australia on the coast, and a stunning place. They had an article in their local paper. They've started back up, and they've got indications are so far they're going to have more teams than what they would normally have, because the winter sports have just had no opportunity of being able to play. Yeah. So we, right across Australia, and social media now is abuzz with, with the excitement, I guess, of being able to come back out and play. And we've got a great partner in Mater Health. I want to really give them a massive rap. They've been tremendous for us. We've been fortunate enough through our partnership with them to access their infectious disease expert. Right. So all of our protocols that we've been able to build out has been built in partnership with the infectious disease expert. So every step of the way we've been checking in with Mater, and they've been phenomenal for us. We're just so lucky that we had such a high valued partner that was an expert in this space, that we could draw on their expertise that'll help us on our way out, I guess.
Yeah, some might call it luck, others might call it good management, mate. So
we'll go with luck, but I'll leave that one there. I don't mind your theory. Yeah.
Okay, so what methods have TFA utilised to keep the touch football community engaged and informed during the isolation period? I know some fairly exciting chats that we'll bring Sammy in on soon, but from an organisational perspective, what's the head office been doing?
The multi-dimensional. So internally, it's been a real challenge trying to keep staff engaged. Again, we're really fortunate. We sit here and we've got 40 odd staff across the country nationally, and that's not taking into account what New South Wales Touch and Queensland Touch have in their offices. There's another, dozen each, let's call it. Trying to keep staff engaged has been a real challenge for us. I guess from a strategy point of view, our outward facing stuff has all been around social media. I was talking earlier to Peter Top about some of the strategies that we've put in place around fast tracking our transition of our educational resources to be delivered online. That'll make us more efficient and better at what we do when we do come through this. It was always a project that we had our eye on and we wanted to get to, and we're starting to scratch the surface of that. But this has given us an opportunity to dig right into the way that we deliver education. Will be better for it. Fortunately, we're not going to be locked down long enough for us to complete that project. But I would have loved to have seen that all the way through, but we're not going to get there. But we've put a really big dent in it, which is great. And then social media has been the critical piece. All of your usual social media stuff, replayed games. I think we're all doing the same stuff, not just our organisation. Most touch organisations across our community have been doing the same thing, and most sports and organisations, to be frank, have been trying to continue that engagement with their constituents and with their people, just so that when we do fire the sport back up, people feel connected and they're back ready to go and ready to play.
Yeah, fair call. And you're right. One of the common threads of these interviews has certainly been that how organisations, England touched on it as well. South Africa, I know I've delivered some coaching courses online in online classrooms. So as you said, it's something that might have been expedited through this period, but into the future, it's also going to be quite important as far as delivery of our sport goes. Sammy, I'll go to you now. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing in the space. The final touch. What's happening there?
Yes, it's pretty exciting, I guess. Ash Carney and myself, we are both in the Australian Women's Open team, and we're both exercise and health scientists. And I think we approached Jamie and TFA about a year and a half ago now, and kind of came to them and said, like we would help the next generation of touch players and really all touch football players to develop their skills and improve their performance. And not just, I guess, on a national scale, but also internationally. And I guess during this COVID period, we've been hard at work trying to deliver some online resources and training programs for anybody, really, anybody involved in the touch community. And so we've pumped out a few different programs, including an at-home strength program that people could complete. So during the COVID period, obviously, a lot of us, or a lot of the world was in lockdown, and we were able to produce a 4-week program where people could complete touch-specific exercises at home to keep them, I guess, as Jamie spoke about before, feeling connected and still part of this touch community, so that when we do go back and get into touch, we're ready to go and people are touch fit and touch ready.
So you mentioned that it's online based. It's not necessarily just for Australians. International people can access it. Do you want to give us a website or where people can go and check it out?
Yeah, sure. So if you just head to The Final Touch online on Instagram or Facebook, or if you type in thefinaltouch.online on the internet, our website will come up and you can access all of our programs and resources from there. So yeah, I think it's a great way to keep touch fit, and if you're looking to improve touch footy performance, then this is probably the place to come.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've checked it out, and I know quite a few people online have as well, and the comments have been nothing but positive. So to all of the touchies out there, doesn't matter if you're a international level player or just somebody that likes to run around on the park, Sammy and Ash have put something together there for you. So check it out at thefinaltouch.online. And I wish you all the best with that, Sammy. It's been outstanding so far.
Cheers.
So moving right along, the 2019 World Cup was quite successful for Australia. And, of course, they were christened the Emus for that World Cup. Can you give us some insight on how you prepared, Sammy? We'll start with you, and what you took away from the experience.
Sure. Well, I guess one thing I took away from the experience is that Malaysia is very hot. It was just a completely different experience, and I guess the best thing about TFA is that they really prepared us to go over there. So in my preparation in the Women's Opens, we focused a lot on heat sessions. So we were doing, sauna and steam room sessions. We were using cooling towels and looking at hydration. So we really got into the science and the recovery aspect, which I think really helped us going over to Malaysia. We were prepared and ready to take on the heat. It was also good that they had the Youth World Cup over there, and Australia could try out a few different methods. I guess we kind of use them as guinea pigs for the Opens tournaments. It was an awesome experience, and yeah, I think the focus on hydration and recovery was something that everybody from all the countries that participated in that World Cup took away from that.
The air conditioned tents were also something that were fairly spectacular.
They were decent, yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. And Jamie, from an organisational perspective, what did you guys take away from the Malaysian event?
Look, Sammy touched on it there. The youth, us committing to the youth event in hindsight was absolutely critical. we had a fairly substantial, change of direction and change of management in the business at the time. And, once we sort of sat down and had a look at the upside and obviously Touch New Zealand committed to go, we didn't want to go. We didn't want to let Joe go over and win something. So we decided to commit to the Youth World Cup. It was the right thing to do for the growth of the international game and give the Youth World Cup a leg up and some credibility and the like. We just felt that it was the right thing to do. But the benefit for us was exactly what Sammy said. It was an opportunity for our organisation to go over, test the conditions, because you can have camps in Townsville, you can have camps in Darwin, which for everyone out there, it's the top of Australia and it's quite humid. But Malaysia is something different again. They're conditions that no one's ever seen before, and some of the heat readings were just out of this world. But for us to be able to go up there and prepare with 6 teams before heading over with an Opens and Masters contingent was critically important for us in hindsight. Understanding, just the difficulties in getting buses, the tardiness, I guess, of the locals and wanting to turn up on time, just understanding those little hiccups at a youth event, and then magnifying that with the increased pressure of an Opens event was critically important for us. I think that was that certainly gave us a significant amount of direction on how we should prepare heading into the Opens.
Yeah, excellent. And you mentioned giving the tournament a leg up or giving it some credibility from an international touch development perspective. What did you see at the World Cup? Did you like what you saw? Some of those nations are really starting to push now. Those next tiers are really starting to lift their game, both on the field and off the field. Yeah,
mate. India. So let me stay on Youth World Cup for a second. The youth team the Indian youth team that came across was just something else. Half of them turned up, half genuinely from the slums, half come from fairly successful and upper class families within India. And I understand that the rich kids paid for the kids that had no money. Some turned up with no shoes. They turned up the fields and they're sharing one water bottle. They had this little marquee set up to stay out of the sun, and the heat certainly didn't bother them. And then understanding the way that they were playing the game, they had a couple of girls playing mixed and a couple of girls in the middle, which, as we know, is not the way that it's done. But they were the only 2 that spoke all 6 dialects, so they were the only 2 that passed messages along the line. I reckon that's a phenomenal story. So yeah, look, and yes, of course, England, when you get into the Opens and Masters event, England are pushing, Japan are pushing. The Japanese women's team are really knocking on the door, and their boys team aren't far behind, and that's fantastic for us. I spoke with our chair at the time, Anita Haggerty, who's phenomenal for us as an organisation, and I said, look, I don't want it to happen on our watch, but there'd be nothing better for our sport than for Australia to lose a World Cup, and for Australia to play England or Japan or South Africa or PNG, one of the other nations that are knocking on the door in an Opens final. And we just want to continue to get better. And the more that we continue to strive to get better, we're also motivated to bring the rest of the field with us too. We do a lot of work particularly in Japan. We do a lot of work there, and we're really open about wanting to help, and have been, for a long period of time, about wanting to help grow the international game. The game formed here, and we're the biggest and the best, if you want to put it that way. But that's purely on the fact that the game started here. We've got 50 years of a head start on some nations who are just starting out, and we've got 220,000 regular players and 700,000 people that play the game when you count schools and programs and the like. So we've got a really, really big backyard to pick our talent from.
Yeah, fair call. And Sammy, as a player, you must have seen some of those changes from those developing countries. How did you find the World Cup from that perspective?
I just love versing all of the different teams and seeing them develop. Even I played in the 2015 Coffs Harbour World Cup, and then coming to Malaysia 4 years later and seeing the development of some teams, and Jamie touched on it before, like Japan, there was a point in that World Cup where we were all kind of looking at each other going, we could be versing Japan in this grand final. Like they were a red hot team, and to see that growth over the 4 years and hopefully 4 more, we'll see how we go, is just awesome. And it's really special to see how these countries are developing and growing at such a fast rate. And like Jamie said, obviously not while I'm around or playing, but I think it would do the world of good to see some different teams winning World Cups and in World Cup grand finals. But yeah, we can give it another few years, I think, and then we'll see.
I can tell you. You mentioned the 2015 World Cup. We had a chat with Chile recently, and you know, and also France last week, and the French girls were saying. The French girls were saying that when they played in 2015, they were just in awe. The Australian girls and the Kiwi girls came onto the field and they sat back and they pretty much were spectators. But when they were in Malaysia, they found themselves a little bit differently, and they developed to the point where they thought, well, we're going to give you our best now and we're going to challenge. They didn't expect to beat you, but they wanted to put their best foot onto the paddock. And that shift in the I guess from the mental side of their preparation was clear to see. So, you know, the challenges out there, you might not want to see it in your lifetime, but, you know, I know some of the teams are really putting that challenge out there. So, yeah.
And that's the best thing for the sport, isn't it? Like, to grow it and to make it the best that it can be is for these other countries to, put their best foot forward and go, hey, here we are, give us your best shot, Aussies. So, it's awesome.
So, Jamie, mate, COVID came around just when the international cycle was starting to reboot, and you said we finished the NTLs here in Australia. We got that one, but then there was some fairly major competitions that were coming up, and unfortunately we missed out on those, as the state of origin between New South Wales and Queensland, and also the Trans-Tasman. You know, that one slipped by the wayside. So where to for the Emus from here? What's on the plans as far as international touch goes?
Look, a really difficult question for anyone to answer. I don't think anyone really knows what that will look like. I said before how we got lucky. That's another area I think where we got lucky. The fact that, you know, we're in year one of a 4-year World Cup cycle. We could afford to not play too much this year and let our really elite athletes who have been under enormous strain for probably 24 months with the inclusion of the Premiership and State of Origins and a World Cup and in really trying conditions, it probably doesn't hurt to give the athletes a year off. So, you know, we look at it from a glass half full perspective. Missing out on an Opens Trans-Tasman and giving our athletes a rest is probably not a bad thing. But where to from here? Look, at this point in time, 2020 Opens Trans-Tasman, which was scheduled for April in Australia, is indefinitely postponed, becoming increasingly unlikely that we would see that played this year. You know, we're opening borders up quicker than we expected. New Zealand's COVID rates, you know, has been zero. A number of cases there at the moment, but, you know, a handful. I think it was 3 overnight, and they're all in international returning residents. Our numbers are low. Indications are that we'd probably be able to open borders between New Zealand and Australia and get something done at some point this year. But we've got a really heavy domestic calendar at the back end of the year for our elite players. State of Origin's obviously off the table for them, but, you know, Sammy down here in New South Wales will go into a Vorden Cup, and Ash and the Queenslanders will go up into a Metro Cup, and then you got state cups at the back end of the year, and we've got an NYC. Trying to fit something in the calendar is going to be really challenging. But Joe and I have got some conversations planned in the next 72 hours or so, and we'll just work through that and hopefully be able to make some noise about that at some stage next week about what our plan is for 2020 and then also for 2021. I think 2021 is fine. Our expectation is by the time we roll around to a Trans-Tasman in 2021, which would be, you know, traditionally around that April period, we should be, you know, all things going well, we should be fine to be back on track with our Emus program.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, and we'll be having a chat with New Zealand in a few weeks' time. So, you might get the march on you for an announcement. No, and Joe, you
No,
might.
we'll get to it before. We'll get it out before him.
I like it. I like it. So, as I said, we've touched, or this conversation's gone around the world. In the last few weeks, we've had 6 or 7 interviews before you guys, and each one of them have mentioned the importance of international development, the importance of some of the bigger nations assisting in those other championships. So, where do you see TFA being able to assist in an international touch game around, things like the proposed Asian Champs or Pacific Nations Cup, Euros, those sorts of tournaments? Is there something that TFA might be looking to do in the future?
Yeah, there is. There's. I guess it's what is it that we're required to do? What do we need to do? And have those conversations with, if it's the Pacific nations or the Asian nations who are playing those championships. How do you want us to help? We, just before COVID hit, we announced our 7 teams for the NRL Touch Premiership, and one of the teams that's no longer covered is an opportunity for our alliance players. And I spoke to the top end of the alliance players that were affected by that the week of NTLs, and had a fairly lengthy and robust and interesting conversation with those athletes about where do we go, because the premiership just wasn't the right fit for them. They come from all over Australia. They don't get a chance to train in a training block like Sammy's Manly team would. So it was becoming increasingly difficult for them to compete on that stage. So they come in from all over Australia. They land on game day. They might get a chance to have a training run before the game. They play and then they fly home again. And it's just not a great way for us to showcase the premiership to start with, and it's not a great opportunity for the athletes to show their best because they don't get a chance to prepare. So we actually toyed with and had conversations with that playing group and played around with it internally, albeit as a concept, about taking an alliance sort of Australian team to an Asian Champs or a Euros or to a Pacific Cup, or combining that team in with Japan and playing that in and around our Opens Trans-Tasman series with New Zealand, and just giving our second tier athletes and developing athletes within our developing states an opportunity to play at a higher level and experience that. But then also, the upside of that is we're sending a very, very strong Australian contingent into an Asian Cup or a Euros where they would be very competitive at that level. And I think that would be, sending our Australian team, sending a full-strength Australian team to an Asian Champs or a Pacific Cup doesn't serve anyone's purpose.
Counterproductive.
Absolutely it is. And look, at the end of the day, our athletes are still all amateur. They still pay. Sammy pays, every time we go to a World Cup, Sammy's got to put a hand in their pocket. So we're trying to get away from it. We're working really hard commercially to come up with a system that allows us to drive enough revenue into the business where that's less of an issue. But putting more load on them and more travel on them doesn't make sense. But that's one funny that you asked that question, Ads, because that's one of the areas that we think that we can really help. And it's that next level, our next level team, which is great for us because it develops our next level of athletes under pressure on an international stage, and also does an enormous amount of good for the international game.
Yeah, perfect. And as I said, it's been the underlying or the undercurrent of every one of the interviews that we've done is that crying out for some experience, some assistance. And, I've mentioned the fact that I've had South Africans, I've had Japanese, we've all had people come and live with us and learn the game and develop the sport to take back to their countries. But it's that showcase of a that standard of touch game coming to their country or playing against their national teams. It's something.
Yeah, and we've seen, you see Japan, Japan come out to a state cup and have come to NTLs, and England have done the same thing in preparation for World Cup, come out and played New South Wales State Cup. And that's the other side of it too, is we've got really good events here where those international teams can come out and test themselves and learn a lot about themselves and learn a lot about the way that they need to prepare. And, and certainly they'll certainly see the most up-to-date game trends if they're playing in a New South Wales or a Queensland State Cup or an NTLs, for example. So, our door's always open for that opportunity for teams to come and do that. And I think, you've seen the leaps and bounds that England and Japan have taken over the last, World Cup cycle. That's got to have had something to do with it, their ability to be able to come and prepare in the right environment.
Yeah, definitely. And Sammy, from a player's perspective, is that something that sort of sits well with you guys? The opportunity for some of those other next level of Australian athletes, but taking the game to the world?
I think that's ultimately what our goal is. We want these other countries, developing countries, to be able to compete against us, and we want it to be, as high and as elite as possible. So I think for countries to come over here and play. So, for example, I know the Japan girls came over and played in a state cup. England has come over and played in a New South Wales state cup. And what they gain from those coming in competing in those tournaments is just it's next level, because you're getting to compete against the top players in Australia game after game, and you watch an England team or a Japan team through a state cup, and the first game, they can get pumped 10-0, and by the end of the tournament, they are giving other teams a run for their money. So even over that a 3-day tournament like a state cup, you see the growth of these teams in these countries. And I know for a fact that my club, Manly, and I'm sure any club in New South Wales or Queensland or across Australia for that fact, would be more than happy to, host teams or other countries and help them to develop their touch skills, because at the end of the day, we just want to grow our sport and make it as elite and professional as possible. And that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'm glad you said that, because on your behalf, I actually extended that invitation to some of the other countries that we've spoken to. I didn't mention you particularly, but did say that there are plenty of teams. There were plenty of teams in Australia that would more than love to open their arms and welcome in, if it's an individual player or a whole team, to come across. And I'm sure the camaraderie of our sport would surely welcome that. I'll just put it out there for anybody that is watching. We can take live questions, and I've actually got a comment here from Simon Ince. We might throw that one up. With a GB and Irish Touch Lions team heading to South Africa in 2021, what do you think the atmosphere would be like if they were to tour Australia? Sammy, what do you think about that?
Sure. I feel like this is more a Jane question, but I can start for you. I think also, like I said, Simon, any team would be, or any club would be just loving to have, a Great Britain or an Irish touch team come along and help you guys to develop your skills and knowledge of the game. And it's great for, our sport, and it's great for us. We learn just as much from you guys as you do us. So, yeah, I think the atmosphere would be pretty cool, and I'm sure you'd be welcomed no matter where you went in the country. Yeah,
good call. Jamie, what do you think about that one, mate?
Yeah, look, anytime anyone wants to come to our shores and play touch, we'll facilitate something. Wayne Grant would be sitting at home if he was watching this, pulling what little hair out of his head that he does. But, mate, we're really motivated to facilitate the development of the international game. I think a British or British and Irish Lions team across here would be phenomenal. Depending, lots of water to flow under a bridge as to how logistically you make that work and who they play and when they come and the like. But that'd be you combine those nations. That's a really strong, formidable outfit. What England are doing over there, some of the work that they're doing is world leading, to be fair, particularly around that sports science space. And I know that they're now sort of touching into the education space, and England are doing some phenomenal things. I think they'll be thereabouts in hopefully 2023 World Cup, wherever that's going to be played. I think they'll be thereabouts. But if they want to come to our shores in 2021, we'd absolutely welcome them with open arms.
Yeah, awesome. That'd certainly whet the appetite. I think there's some, as you said, some good touch skills in those countries developing, and Greg Cropper and the boys over there from England certainly doing an outstanding job leading the world in some aspects.
They are, mate. Their only challenge will be getting into our country, and that's going to be their only battle for 2021 with the international game. It's it's all good and well for us to talk. We can do this and we can do that, and Youth World Cup scheduled for 2021. There's going to be some challenges around that, as has been spoken at length amongst a number of nations and with the international body. So lots and lots to consider. We just need some luck across the world in the next 12 months to rid this thing so we can get back to doing what we love and playing touch and facilitating it.
Yeah, but I think that the message is loud and clear that Touch Football Australia and the Australian touch community in general, certainly extending the hands of welcome to when that does happen, please, come visit. If it's one or in numbers, come across and learn our game. That's the bottom line. We all want to see the game prosper here in Australia and also around the world. So,
and just on that, Adam, that extends beyond players too. I know in my time in Queensland, we had a number of England coaches who partnered in with our Elite 8 teams at the time and come down and learn our game on a couple of occasions, and that's become more of a trend. It's the same with referees. We get a number of referees that come down. It's just not the playing group. That invitation's extended to anyone who wants to come down and experience the game. And referees, coaches, players, administrators, anyone who wants to come down and learn from us, we're an open book. Happy to share everything that we've got and what we do. There's no secrets. We just won't share with Joe.
Outstanding. But I do know that we have had some of the Kiwi coaches come across too and learn from some of the best here. And I know those guys, they extend the same invitation to us as well. And funnily enough, we've actually got a question there that was for Sammy from Cantab Andy. When are you and the Manly girls coming to Whakatane, Sammy?
Cantab. I think we've just said that, we're happy for anyone to come to Australia. I'd also like to put it out there that I'm also happy to go anywhere in the world. So, no, look, I don't even know where that is, but is it in New Zealand?
It is. It's one of the great tournaments over there, actually.
It sounds like a lovely place. I would love to come and play with the Manly girls. That would actually be something pretty cool. We might have a think about over the next few months. So we'll see.
Awesome. So just on New Zealand, Jamie, the NRL Touch Premiership. Are there any plans for a shortened competition this year, or what are we looking forward to as far as the NRL Touch Premiership goes, Jamie?
No.
No
is the short answer. Oh, look, that one's indefinitely on ice. Probably more so than an Opens or a Masters or a Youth Trans Tasman and whatever that international exchange looks like between ourselves and New Zealand. At the moment, the NRL has enough. Our theory is the NRL has enough in front of them at the moment without being too concerned about where we fit in with that. And as you know, it's relying on NRL and NRL club support and broadcasters support that is linked to NRL agreements. And at the moment, we've just sort of said to our counterparts at the NRL, we're here. We're going to keep ticking away doing what we do and what we do best. We're going to give you some breathing space, but these are some of the concepts that we'd like to discuss at the appropriate time. And at the appropriate time, we'll have those conversations. Look, as I said before, the calendar is really tight domestically with things that are already locked in. Going and changing a premiership strategy is difficult to do that for 2020. That's for sure. As far as long-term strategy goes, premiership's absolutely critical for us. I actually think it's really critical for the international game. Our strategy or our philosophy on that hasn't changed. So, we want to utilise the premiership, link it to NRL clubs with really big brands, and get a lot of eyeballs and continue to increase the eyeballs on our sport. And commercially, that's then really strong for us. And if we can drive more money into the game here in Australia, and we can drive more money into the e-news program and offset the costs there, and we can start to invest in other areas that help us grow, and that can include some of the stuff that we'd like to be able to do internationally. So look, as a long-term strategy, it's still absolutely a focus. We've got a new strat plan that's on ice again at the moment. We're just going to redevelop that, but that's ready. Pretty much was ready to come out in July, and that, the headline piece in that was always going to be, a fully funded NRL Touch Premiership and a fully funded elite pathway. And our focus hasn't wavered. We've just got some short-term barriers in our way that we recognise, and we don't want to intrude too much on what the NRL are doing at the moment. They've got enough going on with trying to keep their competition up and alive and on TV and in front of people. And that's going to be critically important for the sustainability of our NRL club partners. So we're just leaving them alone at the moment. We'll pick it up when the timing's right.
But yeah, I guess for the spectators, the supporters, the players, it's not something that's been parked in indefinite. It's indefinite, but it's something that you've still got very much front of mind and ticking along. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it's a critical strategy for us. And it may come back in a totally different form to what it was. It might not be, and I'm only spitballing here. So it might come back that it's not at NRL club venues. It might come back that it's at central venues and played over, 3 or 4 different weekends, like a rugby sevens type of event might be, where everyone comes into certain places and you pick it up over a period. It could be something that sits in the middle of summer and you play it in an NRL off season, which is traditionally where our sport sits. It's a summer sport. So there's lots and lots of options. What COVID has done for us is given us an opportunity to park it and reconsider maybe what that could look like into the future.
Yeah, fair call. And that's crucial as well, that ability to step back, take some time, reassess and put something out there going forward.
It's the same with anything. The same with anything, Ned. Like it's given us a really good opportunity to take a step back and look at the business. It's taken us a really good opportunity to step back, as I said at the top, and have a look at our education. It's given us a really good opportunity to integrate what Sammy's doing and Ash are doing in Final Touch, which is just a phenomenal program. And for those who are looking to develop their skills as an athlete around touch, jump into the Final Touch. It's a phenomenal. Internationally, I think players will get plenty out of that. It's just given us a chance to, without having to run the day in, day out, week in, week out sport, it's given us a chance to take a step back and review what we do.
And I've got to give a big rap to my mate, the old late switch, Scotty. It's been an awesome program as well. That interview with some of the elite players and sharing their stories. It's been an outstanding program.
Yeah, it has been, mate. He's really well connected and understands those athletes. He's got a really great connection with those people that he's interviewed, and he just does it so easy. And same as what we're doing here, it's just an opportunity to get people on, talk about their experiences, talk the sport up, and for us, that's the ability for us to be able to profile our athletes. Again, is really critical to what our commercial outcomes can look like in due course.
Yeah, fair call. And we've had another question come in from Chris Graham. If we have a premiership team from New Zealand, why don't they get an invite to the NTL? Putting it out there, mate.
They can come and play NTLs whenever they like. No problems with them. No dramas if they want to come and play NTL. So they won't this year because NYC is going to be, NYC will look completely different to what it has in the past. Because of COVID, but New Zealand send development teams across to play in the NYC. They're more than welcome. I only jest that we're not willing to share secrets with Joe. There's some stuff that we won't share, but it's really important for us that we continue to grow and we get better, and that Joe gets better and Touch New Zealand get better and their athletes there are better. And if we're all going forward, that's critically important. We just want, we want to go forward. We just like some of the ones that are tailing off to go forward quicker.
Yeah, fair, cool. We've had another comment too from Amsterdam Touch. We run our own Touch and Tulips tournament each year, loving the conversation around sharing resources. So any tips and help in supporting and developing club tournaments is welcome. With a big smiley face there. How can international organisations get in touch with TFA if they want to, as you said, try and learn and develop from the resources that we have here available in Australia?
Yeah, we've just relaunched a new website, and we've got a number of learners hubs and a lot of resources on there that previously we've had locked away under lock and key about how do you run an affiliate and how do you grow the game. And That's all now on all now open and free on our website. So that's the best thing that I can suggest to anyone who's running competitions, either domestically in Australia, New Zealand, or anywhere else internationally. If they want to understand how we go about some stuff, jump onto our website, go into the Beginners Hub, go into the affiliate resource section, jump into the Final Touch stuff. You'll soon get a really good snapshot of some of the stuff that we do. I answered a question, I think it was from Amsterdam on an Instagram feed not all that long ago through COVID, and it's just about building the base. So my view is forget World Cup teams and all of that. That's once in 4 years, and that'll come. But if you've got a really big, broad base, it's a pyramid, right? And we always talk about the size of the pyramid. It's always based on how big your broad base is. It will then dictate how high your peak is. So just get mass number of people playing. Get as many people playing the game as you can. Performance will take care of itself.
Yeah, that's been the thread of some of those other discussions we've had with the likes of Chile and France and those much smaller developing nations. We're actually talking to Bulgaria in a couple of weeks, so that'll be exciting as well. Amsterdam have come back and said, great, thanks. We'll check that one out, Jamie. But they've also said, Sammy, come to Amsterdam.
Oh, what, I can't?
So you're not allowed to go, mate. Sammy's got the invitation.
Yeah. No, I Amsterdam Touch are big they're big supporters of the Final Touch. So they comment on everything, watch all our live stuff. So no, I'm a big fan of Amsterdam Touch. And yeah, I guess just touching on what Jamie said before, TFA are producing some awesome resources on their website. And I guess that's a part of our partnership with TFA and the Final Touch is that, we're trying to produce these resources that are online so that we can develop these the international game, I guess. And so that's, I guess, good or a big positive is that, that online component so that we can, help these teams who we might not necessarily be able to see at the moment because of COVID. So, yeah.
Fair enough. And I'll throw it out there again. If there are any other questions, we're coming to the end of our chat, but if there are any questions that you want to ask, please whack them in the comments area there and we can ask both Sammy and Jamie on the fly. But Jamie, I want you to take your administrator's hat off, put on your player's hat, your participant's hat. What is it most that you're missing about the game?
It's the social connection, and I'm missing that. So I'll leave my administrator's hat on just slightly for a second. I'm missing that, just being able to walk into the building, day in, day out, and having those connections with our people. I've said it before. We've got the absolute best team that I've ever been with. Their skill set's tremendous. Their work ethic's tremendous. We're all a little bit different, but we all get along so well. So from an administrator's perspective, I'm missing the connection, and that's then translating across into the touch space. It's just a connection to people. We've got a really good local competition here. I'm in Nelson Bay, which is about 2.5 hours north of Sydney, which is where I live. And we've got a really cool Friday night social mixed competition. And we just got a group of friends and families with kids that my wife plays in, my eldest daughter plays in, my youngest is 2 young. And I make sure I do whatever I can on a Friday night to try and get home for that through summer. And it's just about playing. It's half speed, to be fair. But it's about playing and socialising, having that connection, having a couple of beers on the sideline at the end of it, having a laugh, and most times limping off to the car at the end of it and getting on with your weekend. I love that about our sport. It's the social aspect, the ability to be able to play sport with your family, no matter how old you are, how good you are, how young you are, how not so good you are. There's a place on this field for everyone, as we say.
Yeah, I can relate to that. And Sammy, what about you? The tight knit teams that you're involved with, you must be really missing that aspect of the game. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we definitely are. I think Jamie hit the nail on the head there with the social aspect. That's the best part of our sport, is that it's such a community and it's a family. And yeah, our Manly girls, we've been messaging each other every week. One person has to put a fitness activity or a challenge up each week that we have to complete. So we're just looking forward to getting back together and training training with one another. We're actually starting next Tuesday, so I'm very excited for that. Yeah, it'll be good.
Fair enough. All right. So with that in mind, you're starting next Tuesday. Walk me through your first try as you come back. You're a prolific try scorer. Talk me through it in your mind. How can you see yourself scoring that first try back?
Sure. I can probably see Hannah Dyball going in, making a good strike dump. Probably Laura Peaty picking up from half, taking a few steps, ripping a long ball 4-on-3, and try. Sure.
Oh, look at you. You're a team player. You mentioned everybody else. You could have taken the opportunity and said, well, I'm going to step the first one. I'll beat 3. I'll do a massive dive.
I did all that before.
Fair enough. That's awesome. But that is, in a nutshell there, you mentioned 3 or 4 of your teammates. You couldn't take all the glory for yourself, and that's the beauty of this game. It is a team game, and you spread the glory. I love it. Yeah. Jamie, what about yourself, mate? Talk me through on that half speed. What about the half speed try there on a Friday night for Jamie? Talk me through it. And you can leave the damaged hamstring in the car, mate.
We'll leave that out, same as Sammy, really. Hannah Dyball, strike dump. Laura picks up, takes a couple of steps, rips that best in the sport, best in the game, female left to right pass, in my view, and hitting me on the chest with a white ribbon on my hair, which is Sammy's go-to. That's Sammy's go-to. No tries for me, mate. No tries. Roll up the field, get it down, get out of the way, make my touches, get off.
Oh, okay. So you're the battler that just works down the middle, gets the momentum for the team to launch the attack from.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, shades of myself there, mate. I'll throw that one in.
Yeah.
Had another question from Cantab Andy, this time for Jamie. Any advice for becoming a sports administrator? How did you get started, and what does the job entail?
I was really lucky. I said at the top that I come through a rugby league background, and I finished playing rugby league in my maybe late 20s, maybe 30. And there was a young Newcastle Rugby League, Community Rugby League general manager that I played a little bit of footy with, and he resigned from the position and moved on. And he was the first one that broke the mold of administration in rugby league heartland, which is massive here in Newcastle. And as I said, he broke the mold, and that really opened up an opportunity for me. And I was probably at the right time in my career. Come through a real estate background, so I had that sort of sales, marketing, promotion, obviously the ability to talk because I don't shut up. So I went through all of that, and I got lucky. I got an opportunity at a community level as a GM, which just gave me everything from, ticketing to events to corporate to sponsorship to HR to, managing people and leading. And it was a really broad role. And it was just I got lucky in the sense that I just got a dream entry level job that was at a very high profile here locally. And probably the most I learned, which is critical when you reach, certain levels in any sport, what I learned most out of that was politics and how to manage politics. And that was a critical part. And, I went through, just worked my way up the chain. I took a job with Country Rugby League, and then probably the best thing I ever did was left Newcastle and went to Queensland, and got a chance with Queensland Rugby League to lead their state cup, so their Queensland Cup, Intra Super Cup, which is just huge up there, and shifted broadcast from ABC to Channel 9 and expanded their cup into Townsville and PNG, and set some strategy sort of stuff up. And that was the best thing that I did from a career perspective. And then got the opportunity because of that to come across with Queensland Touch and now, 2 roles, COO and CEO. I've done a little bit of study. I've done a master's, which I felt gave me the paper and the credibility behind the experience that I'd learned, and the academic backing and the confidence that you actually do know what you're talking about and you do know what you're doing. Which comes through, you can learn that stuff, but you've still got this little bit in the back of your head going, well, do I know enough? And I got an enormous amount of confidence out of doing that. So I studied a master's with Deakin down in Melbourne, and put myself under an enormous amount of pressure time-wise to do that. But was certainly outside of maybe moving to Queensland for a period of time was the best thing I did for my career.
Yeah, and like you said, and I guess the last part of the question, what does it entail? The job entails so much. It's not just about, ticking boxes and paying people. It's about every aspect of the game that you mentioned there, from the promotion to the ticketing to the participation to the, the relationships that you need to establish. And I've been involved in the sport for a very long time, and we've had some great administrators, mate, but not peeing in your pocket. The work that you've done in the short period of time that you've been with us has been outstanding. And I guess as a participant, involved in many different levels of the game outside the politics, the involvement and the participation and the community that you've developed is second to none. We've had some great administrators, mate, but from a personal perspective, I put you right up there. So thanks for all the work that you've done, especially through this period as well, mate.
Thanks, mate. We might leave it there. I said before, I've got a phenomenal group of people who work really hard. And I think we've got the balance in our organisation, right? We've got someone like Brad Mitchell who just lives and breathes our sport. He's our head of participation, GM of participation. He took Hills, which had something like 10 teams to 190 teams in, about a decade. Again, with a group of people, but he understands what it's like at the grassroots. We've got, someone like Zoe Zanetti who leads our events, who just lives and breathes our sport. I hate mentioning only a couple of people. There's someone like Alice Ellis who sits in comms, who, has a fantastic eye for the development of our comms and our promotion strategy, particularly in the female space. So, what does it entail? You're right, it covers everything. And I think the one thing that you touched on was relationships. That's in my role, that's the most critical thing. I need to be across so much, so I never get into the detail. I'm not a detail person, but I need to trust my people and the organisation, and the fact that you've got the right people around you to go and do their job. That's critical. But relationships and leadership is really what it's about.
Yeah, fair call. Well, guys, we might wrap it up there, but I will touch on one last question for both of you. I want to know something outside of touch. What have you done to keep yourselves entertained during the COVID-19 period? Sammy, what have you been doing outside of touch?
Oh, well, when I'm not focusing on touch, I'm teaching. I'm a high school PE teacher. And obviously being a teacher in this period of time has been very challenging, but it's been such a great experience and a learning experience for me. And it's been great to just get back into it with the kids at school and get into some face-to-face teaching. So, we're wrapping up next week. We're back on school holidays. So, that's how I've been keeping busy, working.
And Jamie, what about yourself, mate?
Look, away from touch, mate, I like to cook. I've been doing a fair bit of cooking. I've been a dad, to be honest. I've been a dad and a husband, and I've just been able to be at home for a block of three, almost 4 months now, and I haven't had that amount of time at home like this before. So whilst it's challenging, I miss being away from our team and our group. It's been really nice to be at home. So I've been doing a bit of cooking, ordering and drinking copious amounts of red wine. I've got to stop that. And mate, I've been playing golf a little bit. I love golf. I used to play quite a bit, and I'm back sort of trying to hit some balls from time to time, switch off away from all things COVID, and get out on the course from time to time and play. So I've been really enjoying my time at home.
Excellent. And I guess if we ask the missus, mate, would she say the same thing?
No, can't. No, wants me out of here. Wants me out of here. Yeah.
But I bet you the girls are loving having you there.
No, the girls want me out here too.
They want you out as well.
Yeah. And all the staff in Sydney want me here. I can't figure it out. I don't know where I'll end up. Central Coast somewhere, maybe halfway.
Fair enough, mate. Come on down. Just travel down the road a little bit. I'm down here. I'm sure we've got a nice caravan parked out the front, fully self-contained, mate. I'll look after you.
Beautiful.
And, just before we do wrap up, just want to give a shout-out to Glenn Eaton from Five Photography. Been running some of the photos from the World Cup. Still the best in the business. the Glenn Dog with his photos and some of those moments that he captured over there in Malaysia were outstanding. So just a shout out to him. And there, I guess too, Jamie, you talk about the people that you've got and, putting your faith and your trust. It's not just your staff, it's your volunteers, it's your, the people that come in for specialist roles like this. We really are very lucky that we work with some of the best people in the game.
Yeah, we are, mate. Glenn's a champion. That photo that he took of Alyn Mortimer front on, fully stretched out, it's a phenomenal photo. He's a wine man too, so I like Glenn a lot. And look, if I can, I know we're wrapping up, but people like Ian Matthew, and I mentioned Anita Haggerty, our chair, Ken Golden, who does an enormous amount around our education spaces. We've got some phenomenal volunteers around our sport. That's the photo. Yeah. That's a tremendous shot. It doesn't run, like I said. We're lucky. We've got a capacity to be able to employ a number of people, but we don't scratch the surface when it comes to delivering the sport like our volunteers do. They're just, and all sports are the same, but our group are incredible.
Yeah, and mate, just on that, I want to touch on the fact that recently the sport lost a great servant, somebody I know that on social media you paid massive respect to. But while I've got you, I just want to put it out there. Lou Tompkins sadly passed away, and he was one of the men right at the forefront of this sport for a very long time. The work, the dedication that he gave to touch footy. Just mate, touch on the passing of Lou for us if you can.
Yeah, mate, I was fortunate enough. I sort of got to know Lou when I started in Queensland and obviously in and around events. And mate, I understand up until a few days before he passed, he was still, hooking into fit conversations about referee development. He fought hard, right? Like he battled the illness for a long period of time, and that was, in my experiences, that was typical of Lou. He was a great man, a great contributor. Will absolutely be sorely missed, and we feel for his family and his close friends and the touch, particularly the referee community that were close with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lou Tompkins, a massive loss to the sport, but I know probably for each of us here, he's had some touch on all of our lives in some way. So again, Vale Lou Thompson, and on that note, I don't want to end it on a somber note, but it is something that we have to face in these times. But mate, I cannot say how happy I am at the work you guys have been doing behind the coalface to get the game back out there. As a participant, I've been involved and kept up to date, and I certainly know the direction the sport's heading. Looking at the work that Sammy's been doing in partnership with her team with the final touch, just outstanding. So keep up the great work, guys. It really is an indication of why Touch Football Australia is at the top of the tree. So, thanks very much on behalf of participants in our game all around the world.
Yeah, thanks,
appreciate
Az.
that.
And I wanted to say a big thank you to you and Toppy and really the Federation of International Touch. This is such an awesome, thing that you guys are doing, this set of six, and for people across, our touch community internationally to be able to come on and connect like this is pretty special. So thank you so much for putting this on.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for joining us. And we'll pop up again somewhere around the world. Like I said, we have Bulgaria coming up. We have New Zealand coming up. And we look forward to bringing you another set of six next week. Stay tuned to our Facebook and YouTube channels. We'll bring you the announcements of where they'll be and who we'll be talking to. But thanks for joining us. Bye for now.